Hey everyone, it's Random Noob, and today I'm updating my tier list from 2.01. This tier list originally was for competitive and my predictions on the changes of the meta based on the changes. I didn't really have much time playing on it in the current patch, so a lot of it was prediction based on what I thought was going to happen. Obviously, because I didn't have time to test it out, a lot of things did end up changing that I didn't foresee. For example, like Koga claws were actually like really nuts. I thought Koga was going to be a pretty bad champion, but turns out he's actually probably broken at the moment. Also, this tier list originally was for competitive, so right now I'm going to be doing it for high ranked. So it's going to translate a little bit. Obviously, high ranked is very similar to competitive. A lot of the players have very similar skills, but competitive, you know, got to remember some things will change. We're going to start from the top of the tier list. We're going to move stuff down based on what we think. If we think it's good where it's at, we'll keep it there. If we think it's worthy moving up, we'll move it up, obviously. When I originally made this tier list, I did not add Imani, so we will be adding her right now. At the time of the tier list, like looking back, she was probably an SS tier champion. Her dragon was broken. Her fire got a huge buff, but now they've honestly steadily nerfed her very, very hard. I think her dragon's basically one of the worst abilities in the game. It has a ton of counters, including Bulldozer, and just the fact that it moves so slow when you attack makes it really bad. So at the moment, I'd say I'd put Imani really low, maybe even a B or a C. She's just, it's kind of a shame because she's such a fun champion to play, and I enjoy playing her so much. Her fire playstyle is so interesting, and her dragon's just like really fun, but unfortunately, she's a pretty bad champion in my opinion, even in ranked. I wouldn't really pick her, guys. I'm sorry, like, she's not very good. She's easily dove. She has no mobility. She really doesn't bring much to the game that other champions don't. Like, her damage isn't that crazy. Her burst isn't that crazy, right? To, you know, give up all that survivability and all that mobility. So right now, I'm going to put Imani at a C. Maybe if she gets a few buffs, that'll change, but her dragon's pretty bad, unfortunately. Starting off with Eevee and Dredge. At the time of this video, Dredge had that crazy knockback card that I thought was going to be broken. They ended up nerfing it. And also, just the fact that Dredge doesn't have much mobility and just doesn't bring much to the game besides doing a lot of damage. And his ult sucks. I actually think Dredge is a pretty weak champion. I don't think he's bad by any means, but I think he's an average champion. Very easily countered. If you pick an Androxus into Dredge, you basically just farm him the entire game. So considering that, I'm going to put him at an A-. He's an okay damage. Decent, but not great. I know a lot of low-ranked people like just permaban Dredge, permaban Drogos, but people, like, they're counterable. Think about how to counter them. Pick things that, you know, counter them and win the game. They're not that OP. You don't need to permaban them. Eevee. At the time, I thought Eevee was going to be broken. It seemed like they were nerfing Burst. The sustain on her teleport is really strong. But in reality, the damages Burst didn't really get nerfed. And honestly, Burst might have gotten stronger because it's impossible to kill anything unless you can burst through the healing, because healing numbers are so strong right now. So for that, I think Eevee definitely drops in the tier list. I don't think she deserves an SS tier. I think she's definitely a really strong flank, though. Like, she's not the worst flank in the game by any means. She's definitely one of the top 3. So considering all this, I still think she's a strong champion, but I don't think she's top tier. I think she's probably an S- or A+. And for me, I'm going to put her in an A+. S-, maybe low S-. And moving on to some tanks and supports. So, for me, Inara, Khan, and Koga. Let's talk about them all together because they're pretty similar in skill, or not skill level, in power level. And honestly, the more I'm playing the game, the more I find that Koga just isn't as good. I don't think Koga's that good because, really, he's just so easily diveable. He's actually pretty weak without his ult. Yes, he brings a pretty strong ult, but if their entire team's shooting you, the rest of your, like when you don't have your ult, like and you're just looking for a hook or something, and their entire team's just shooting you at all times, you kind of die pretty fast. All things considered, like I still think he's a really good champion. Like he's not bad by any means. I'm not saying he's bad, because he's still really good. His ult's nuts, but I don't think he's on the level of like a Khan. Or I don't know, is Inara that good either? Really? All right, let's talk about them singular, and rate them that way. Inara, I don't think point tanks are as good as originally people were thinking. So I'm going to move Inara down to an S-. Actually. She is very good. She lives for a long time. But how does she impact the game? All she does is stay alive, right? She has an ult that's okay. But she's not killing anything really unless, you know, you're way out of position. And Mother's Grace is like very unique. No one else has it at this point. But it's not enough to like push her over the top where I thought she was going to be. As far as Khan goes, the Khan ult nerf at the time, I didn't think it was a big deal, and I still don't think it's a big deal. I think his ult is still really good at the top levels, and dare I say it, OP. Unless you get bugged, of course. Yikes. You guys got to fix that bug, Evil Mojo. You got to fix it. So, for me, Khan, I think I put him at the right spot. I think he's an S+ tank. In terms of Khan and Inara, I thought they were at the same level. And I think now that they're at these different levels, I think Koa's right in between them. I think Koa's an S. I think Koa is a little bit under Khan level, but he's still a very strong tank. Like, very, very strong. Definitely one of the strongest tanks in the game. So moving on to Maldamba. Maldamba, I had him in S+, because I thought CC was going to be so broken. It ends up that because Resilience got cheaper, and other supports do crazy amounts of healing. Grover, nerf that character, please. It's so broken. I actually think Damba goes pretty decently far down the tier list. I still think he's probably the second best healer. But just the fact that Grover is just so broken right now, it's just like stupid broken. I hate Grover. Like, it's just, ugh. Please nerf that character into the ground, please, or do something with him. Like, my opinion for Grover would be to make his healing more sustained, like buff his passive healing, so your job is to kind of like stay in between the team, like your positioning is very important, and nerf his active healing, like a 900 heal on 4 people, including yourself. So your whole team, if you're all grouped up, is just like bonkers. It's just like way too broken. Like, what does Maldamba heal? 300 plus the dot healing? I don't know. Grover's just way too strong right now. Like, honestly, first pick and permaban in my opinion. He's just such a good healer in the meta. Plus, another thing people are doing, like I've seen some supports streaming, like Cuss has been starting to do it a little bit. Seen some EU guys doing it. They run Root Grover because Rampant... Is it Rampant Blooming? Is that the talent? Let's see real quick. Is it Rampant Blooming? Yeah, Rampant Blooming doesn't even give you that much healing. Yeah, it's 720, or no, sorry, 160 times 4, 640 over 4 seconds. Isn't that crazy? Especially when you have Cauterize on you. And then Deep Roots, now that it bounces between enemies, is just like, ugh, it's just broken. It's just absolutely broken. So, considering Grover's SS and Damba, I'd move him down a little bit. I think he's better than Ying, but I don't think he's like game-changingly broken. His healing output is just nowhere near Grover. So I'm putting him a lot farther down than I thought. I still think he's a very, very good healer, though. So moving on to the S-tier champions we rated. Cassie, I think, is probably exactly where she should be. Cassie's a very good champion. She's just all around a strong pick. You can pick her up early in drafts. You can ban her, and it's really not a bad choice, right? She's just overall very strong. She has multiple talents that are very good. Exaction, big game. Impulse is even maybe viable a little bit. So I think Cassie, we rated her pretty well. I think she's right where she belongs. And I would say the same for Ruckus. I think Ruckus, very, very good tank. I think he's just as good as Makoa. A lot of mobility. The fact that not as many characters have good records and caught, like HRX patch, definitely makes him a lot better. And the fact that he just has so much mobility, and there's no real tanks that do the same thing as him, except for maybe Ashe. Like, just, he's very aggressive and can get away with that aggression. So I think Ruckus and Cassie are good at S. Moving on to Willow. So Willow, a lot of people, gave me hate for putting her so high up on the tier list. Looking back, I thought Dead Zone would be a big thing, but in reality, Willow's damage is just so low that even Dead Zone, you can't even push through to kill people, and she's just very easily flanked. So all that considered, I think Willow was very, very wrongly ranked, and I'd actually put her really low. I'd put her at about an A-. She's about an average damage. She's pickable, she's viable, but anything with high mobility is just going to farm her, so it makes her kind of weak. So right now, the top of our tier list is looking pretty good. Let's move to S-. Ash. So Ash got a ton of buffs this patch. I don't understand why they felt the need to nerf some tanks and buff other tanks like Ash so much. It doesn't really make sense to me why she got all those buffs, because she was already a solid tank, right? She was getting picked. She wasn't unplayable. She was getting picked pretty much every game at HRX. I don't think... Yeah, like, Ash was getting picked or banned every game, right? I can't remember if she... I don't think she wasn't, so it doesn't really make sense to me why they buffed her as much as she did, why they gave her a stun in her ult, which is already a freaking insane ult. That ult is bonkers already without the stun. Now let's add a stun to it. I don't know. I don't know. So, yeah, Ash, I think we did rank her pretty high, but I think she's actually higher ranked than that. I would put her on con level. I think she's one of the best tanks in the game. Very strong, very easy to carry a game with her in ranked. Definitely pick her up. Definitely worth banning. 100%. So moving on to some damage picks, Leon and Sha. I had Leon pretty high ranked, and I think she still is high ranked. I think maybe I'd move her up a tier a little bit. I think she's probably on Cassie level. Whoops. She's definitely one of the best damages in the game. Her presence build with max CD and the max healing is really strong. It gives you a ton of sustain and just a bunch of damage, like hitting people for 1200 across the map. It also works really well with Wrecker too, because it's considered a weapon shot. So when you do shoot a shield with her presence, you get the bonus damage from Wrecker. So it makes her a very strong Wrecker, actually. One of the best Wreckers in the game. Obviously not Dredge level or anything, because nothing's on his level of Wrecker, because his damage is just freaking bonkers, but it's still pretty good. So I'd put her on an S. Moving on to Shalin. Sha... what do I think about Sha? I don't know. Rock's been playing a lot of Sha recently, and I don't think he really can carry a game, but I think he's definitely a solid champion. His stealth can be hard countered by Illuminate, which is a big deal, by teams that have a brain and buy items that counter the enemy team. Obviously, that doesn't happen much in Paladins, but high ranked maybe it does. So that considered, just the fact that Illuminate hard counters half of his kit, he does do a lot of damage. He has a stun. I still think he's a pretty solid champion. I think he's probably ranked about where he should be. A little bit below Cassie and Leon, but definitely a very solid champion. Definitely pickable, definitely playable if, the other damages are banned. So we're moving on to Ying. Ying, I had her a lot higher ranked than I think she really is. One thing I'm learning about healers in this meta is that healers need to bring something else to the game. Like, when you have healers like Grover and Damba that have a ton of output, but also bring CC or, survivability, it just makes Ying look really bad. Like, all she brings is heals, and her heals aren't even as good as Grover. Like, Grover's heals are better, and he has a better ult, arguably. Actually, I don't know about that. Let me take that back. But anyways, yeah, Grover's heals are better, and he brings more to the game, and has more survivability. Why pick Ying over that? Why pick Ying over Damba, who does the exact same thing as Grover? More heals, brings more to the game. When you have caught threes, he still does something. He has CC. So that, all things considered, I think Ying's an okay healer. She's not bad by any means, but she's not good. Like, she's okay. So that considered, I put her at an A. Definitely not near Maldamba. Definitely nowhere close Grover. So A seems about good. So I think is that it for... Yeah, we did all the rest. We did all these. So we're on A+. So moving on to Barrack. At this point, I thought Barrack was pretty bad. Not bad per se, but not one of the better tanks. I think the more I played it, like, he actually does a decent amount of damage mid-range. A lot more damage than the rest of the tanks. Like, really the only tank that can match his mid-range damage is probably Ruckus. Or I guess Koga too, but Koga's permaban for the most part. So with all that things considered, I think his survivability, his ult, I don't think he's on Koga or Ruckus level, but I think he's a very, very strong tank. And I'd say he's probably just as good as Inara. I don't think Inara is like that much more bonkers than him. Like, really the only thing she has that Barrack doesn't have is an ult. And there's other things in Barrack's kit that Barrack does better than Inara. So considering that, I'd put them on the same level. Moving on to Fernando. Fernando, I think we probably have him at the right spot. He's a very, very good tank. His ult's super strong. He's got a lot of survivability now with the builds everyone's running with Formidable and stuff like that. I mean, some people are running Scorch, but you can run like a pretty tanky build on him with a lot of HP and maybe some Rejuve with his new Rejuve card. So I think Fernando, we probably have him at the right spot. Just a good, solid overall tank. Great ult. Okay kit. No damage, but great survivability. So moving on to our next couple healers. I guess Pip really isn't considered a healer, but he can be. Furia. The more I play Furia, or play around her, I don't really play her, but the more I play around her, I think she's alright. Her ult's obviously really good in certain situations, giving your entire team full ammo, movement speed, and 30% bonus damage is pretty broken. But the rest of her kit's pretty meh. Her beam obviously is a very strong ability, but it's not very consistent in ranked, or in competitive it's still not that consistent because people can just hook you or, you know, disengage you out of it. There's a lot of things you can do to stop a Furia from beam from hitting. All that considered, I think she's probably about a Ying level healer, so I would move her down a little bit. I think you can go with Ying or Furia and be just fine if all the rest of the healers were banned. So yeah, Furia under name makes sense. Solid player, solid champion, not great, not bad. A seems good. Let's talk about Saris first, because Pip's more like a damage. Saris, obviously, like, she got a huge buff with the Void's Abides in her kit. Makes Mortal Reach so strong, really strong. Her ult's actually pretty decent if you know how to use it. Obviously, there's a lot of things that counter it, like, you know, shields and stuff like that. But pulling in an entire team, that's pretty strong. It's pretty strong, right? So that thing considered, I would put her above Ying and Furia, but below Damba. Her ult's not as good as Damba's, but it's close. It's close. So yeah, so I think Saris is actually at the perfect spot. Moving on to Pip. So Pip has got a lot of attention recently. A lot of people are starting to play him. One of my favorite champions, by the way, always has been. I love this character so much. But I think he's a little overvalued currently. I don't think he's really as good as people are making him out to be, but I still think he's a good champion. So actually, I would consider Pip at the perfect level at A+. I don't think he's as good as the rest of the damages up here. He's not a very good healer, but he's good. He's a good flanker. Oh, not a good flanker. Don't play flank Pip, guys. He's not a good flanker. He's bad. Don't do it. But in terms of damage Pip, you know, just sitting back, spamming. Okay character, brings a great ult. Really good in a meta where everyone's sustaining. Because Moxie 5 gives you so much value. Just get under 50% HP, pop that heal on you, you're full health. It's pretty good against things like flanks and stuff like that that need to dive you when you're at low health, and you just pop back up. So I think Pip, considering that, he's at the perfect spot. Torvalds next. Okay, so A+ for Torvald. Is that right? I don't know. Torvald in ranked is pretty mediocre because you need like a duo partner or something to go in with you, right? You need something to help you with your because all you bring is a shield. The rest of Torvalds' kit is like terrible, unless you're on a map like Frog Isle or something where it's really easy to knock off most of their team. So, really, he's just an average tank, and ranked, same thing for competitive, really. I think he's probably at the perfect spot. I don't think he's like OP like a lot of people think. I think he's okay. I think he's definitely decent, but I don't think he's like pick ban 100%. Need to always take Torvald or you lose the game. So I think he's probably perfect at A+. Moving on to Xin. So Xin is very interesting. A lot of people know I love Xin. I played him at HRX against Navi a lot. And honestly, I think he's a pretty decent champion. I didn't really realize how good Willow was and Yomi was until this patch, where everyone's stacking up in like in little areas and little pockets of the map, and when you just Yomi right through that and hit 3 people for like, 2,500 damage like on a normal attack, it's pretty strong. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And cauterizing them all, by the way, it's pretty good. So considering that, how good his escape is, the best escape in the game, I put him, definitely higher than I thought he was. I thought he was an A+, which is a pretty solid champion, especially with the clipping change. Oh my gosh. If you guys haven't tried Xin since that clipping change, don't try it. It's insane. It's like actually just really friggin' fun to play now. He's just so much fun. So that considered, I think he's probably an S tier flank. Definitely one of the best flanks in the game right now. Super strong. The problem with Xin, though, is you really need a team to follow up with you. Because if you're the only one doing damage, he doesn't really have the damage output to kill an entire team through heals and stuff like that. So he's a really good flank, can stay alive really well, pokes very well, but he does need a team to help him out a little bit. But to be fair, all the flanks need that, right? So I think that's good for that level, right? Yep, we're done with that. Okay, moving on to A. So my A tier damages. I had Andro, Drogos, Grok, Maeve, all on this level. For the most part, it seems pretty solid. I think I might move a few of these down and maybe move Andro up. So let's start on Andro. With all the nerfs to punch, and I thought Andro was going to be kind of weak. I thought he was going to be, okay, because he has a ton of mobility. His reversal is still a strong ability, considering that. And honestly, Godslayer I think is a little underrated. I think Godslayer is actually a pretty good talent. If they feed your Godslayer at all, you can do like 2,000 damage burst to like a squishy in the back line or something from pretty far away. So the more consistently you hit your Godslayers, the better I think Androxus gets. Wait, did I say Godslayers? More consistently hit your reversals. Excuse me. But yeah, so all the considered, I think Andro's actually a pretty decent flank. I'd actually put him about Eevee level. So I'm actually moving him up in the tier list. I think he's okay. I don't think he's like top tier. I think you can definitely carry a ranked game very well with him if you're a good player. But he's just okay. He's okay. I think he's very, very fun, though. In a fun tier list, I'd put him at SS, 100%. Fun tier list, way to the top with you. So, moving on to Drogue. At the time, I don't know why I had Drogue so high. I think Drogue was a garbage champion. Rest in peace. I think he's just completely terrible. He got a huge health nerf. You have to put 5 points into a card to get even close. You get 50 more HP than he had last patch. That's just doo-doo. It's just garbage. I hate this champion. Don't even remind me it's in the game. I'm putting him on D. Gap, actually, I'm not putting him on D. But all that, I was pretty much, saying the truth about. He's not very good. He's okay. He's probably playable. Wormjets is fun, but it's not very good. You don't really have like the punch you need. And even if you hit every rocket and they don't pay attention to you, it's still like meh. Like that, if any team pays attention to you at all, Wormjets is just terrible. It's not good at all. So like all that considered, Fuselad's not very good. Combustible got a huge nerf. No more Cauterize on it. It also got a damage nerf. Drogoz is just pretty bad, unfortunately, as I used to be a Drogoz one trick, but hey, we move on. So yeah, Drogoz I'd put on a B. I'm not a big fan of him right now. I don't think he's very good. Moving on to our next I guess he's not really a damage, but I guess people are playing Grok heals. People are playing Grok heals, so I have to think about that. I have seen a lot of Grok healers in my games. In terms of Grok, I'd probably put him at that spot at A. He's an okay champion. He can easily carry games at lower ranks, but I don't think he's like a top tier, you know, pick him over all these other damages type character. He does bring a decent amount to the game. His ult buff is very, very good. His ult's pretty strong right now if you go in with your team. But I think he's just okay. I think we probably ranked him perfectly. I think he's an A tier damage / support. His damage maybe be a little better than his support, but they're both okay. Moving on to Maeve. Maeve is such a hard champion to rank right now because I want to say she's terrible, but I also want to say she's okay. I don't know what to I don't know about her. Like, she's just so hard to rank because her poke is so inconsistent and weak, and her initiation is so inconsistent and weak. So it's like, what do you bring to the game? You have low HP, you have a very hard time poking, you have a very hard time initiating and killing anything because your mobility is pretty low compared to other champions like Koga or Andro or Eevee. So you don't really bring much poke, you don't really bring much damage, you don't really bring much execution potential because they just heal out of your range. What do you bring? You bring an ult. So her ult is broken enough that, like, I'd maybe consider okay, but I don't know. I can't put her that high up the tier list. I think she's okay. She has a decent amount of ability, some survivability, but she's gotten nerfed so much that she's just not very good anymore. I don't know. I just don't think she's that good. So moving on to Terminus. When I did make this tier list, Termi was a 3-second siphon, and now they nerfed it, or now they buffed it to 1 second cooldown when you siphon. So obviously that's a huge change. 2 seconds is a pretty big deal. So I think he's a very, very strong tank with the 1 second. And this is all predicated on the fact that Terminus isn't buggy, but we know for a fact that Terminus will probably be broken for the entire time he exists. So don't pick Terminus. Even though I'm putting him high on the tier list, I'm putting him up there in theory, and really he's just a broken champion. Do not pick him, even though he's an S-. Do not pick this champion. Okay, we're done with A. We got to fill out A a little bit more, but we will. There's a lot of champions in here I want to move up. A few of them, they're okay where they're at, but moving on to Bomb King. So when I made this tier list, I was kind of thinking dive would be pretty strong, and BK in a dive meta is just weak because Poppy Bomb is very, very predictable. High cooldown. Well, not very high cooldown, but decently high cooldown. Not much survivability. So in a dive meta, Bomb King's just really bad. But in a meta where there's a lot of sustain and you need high damage just to, like, burst through tanks, BK is actually a pretty strong champion. I wouldn't say, like, OP, but I'd say he's, like, definitely, you know, high up the pick list. Definitely viable. So considering that, I would move him up a little bit, but not a ton. I'm going to move him up to an A because he can easily be countered. If you pick a very high mobility comp that just dives him and just farms him over and over. But in the right situation, Bomb King, you know, fits the meta really well and can do quite a bit in a game. So moving on to Buck. Buck, I think I like where he's at right now. He's an okay champion. He's got a lot of sustain early game with no Cauterize, but he's just because the fact that he has no damage. And like his damage cards, I guess net looks okay. You know what? I actually might move Buck up. I might move Buck up to an A. Might do it. Netbook, just on the fact that Netbook has enough sustain now that Cauterized got nerfed, that I think Netbook, and the Netbook cards are really strong. There's like a 50% movement speed card every time you net alongside. I mean, actually, wait. Didn't Netbook get nerfed? One sec, let me look at this. Yeah, they did nerf Concussion, but it's still 5 seconds off the cooldown, so it's still a 5-second cooldown, which ain't bad, because you pair that up with, where's Buck again? You pair up this card with this gotcha card, 50% movement speed for 3 seconds. So basically, 60% of the time that you're up, you have 50% movement speed, which is pretty good. That's like Lex level mobility on way more damage, so it's pretty strong. Pretty strong for sure. So I'm actually going to move Buck up. I think Buck's pretty decent damage. I think he's okay. I don't think he's bad by any means. I would definitely take him over Maeve at the current moment. Just the fact that he's way tankier and has way more damage when you commit. And that's really what a flank is. A flank isn't like a poke bot like Maeve is right now. Snipers. I'm actually going to move the snipers up a level. They are pretty strong in a meta where everyone's sustaining the way they are. With Kinessa, actually, now that I think about it, the sniper Strix is going to go down. I think Kinessa is definitely an A-tier damage. She can, blow people up with her steady aim talent, blow up supports before they even realize they're getting shot. And that's a pretty strong in a meta where it's very slow. I mean, people are playing really slow right now. Not many people are picking flanks, and that just makes snipers, when they're sitting back free firing, that much better. So I'd actually move Kinessa up a little bit. But Strix, I don't think he's quite on Kinessa's level. At the time of making this tier list, I did, but Strix did get a decent amount of nerfs, while Kinessa with steady aim pretty much stayed almost exactly the same. So now Koga. I know a lot of people were waiting for me to rank Koga, because Rock Monkey made that Koga build popular with Dragon Fangs. It's pretty broken, very annoying to play against for 90% of the champions. It's just not fun to run into a Koga and he's just like, and you can't even hear him. You don't even know he's there until you're dead. It's not that fun. So considering that Dragon Fangs, with the lifesteal card and the 100 per second agility card or whatever, I hate that build. It's too broken. Please nerf it. But considering how broken that build is, I'm going to move Koga way up. He's probably one of my biggest miss rankings alongside Eevee. I actually put him at an S-. I don't think he's like broken. I just think he's like okay, right? He's very strong, but he's not like, he's counterable, right? Like you can pick flanks that, blow him up every time you see him. He doesn't have like a Billow like Xin where he's just like free escape on a 15-second cooldown, So he can be targeted down. He can be hooked. He can be, countered with like cripples and stuff like that. So considering that, I think he's a very good damage, but I don't think he's broken OP tier. But he's very annoying to play against. I will give you that. Talus. Okay, so Talus, okay champion. I will admit, probably think he's ranked about where he deserves. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, Dredge might be an A damage. I think I ranked Dredge just like a tier low. I don't think he's on the level of these champions, but I think he sits on this level pretty well. I think he fits there. Yeah, I like that. Let's move Dredge back up. So Talus, like I was saying, I actually think Talus is pretty bad. The rune mechanic in a champion, no champion wants that mechanic. You don't want to go hold a good position and then be forced to come back here when you're holding a great position already, right? Like, that's just a bad mechanic for any champion to have. Like, you wouldn't want to have that on a tank champion. Maybe a support. But, like, if Talus could do... If he could, like, put his rune down, go hold this position, and then go back to his rune when he wanted to, and the rune, like, lasted forever, I think Talus would be a lot better. But the fact that Talus is forced to go back to his rune on a cooldown just, like, puts him in weird positions, and he doesn't have much damage to make that mechanic good. So that I'll consider it. I actually, like I said, I was going to keep him there, but I actually might move him down. I think he's a pretty weak. I don't think he's very good. Victor, I think Victor is about where he deserves. Puts out a lot of damage. definitely, but he's very easily countered by flanks. I mean, Xin just farms the Victor over and over. Like, there's literally nothing a Victor can do to his Xin. He tries nading him, Xin just counters, hits you for 600. What are you going to do? Like, it's just, there's nothing you can do as a Victor against an Xin. Or an Andrew, or a Koga for that matter, or an Eevee. Any flank in the game. So, considering that, he does do a lot of damage, but, you know, he dies very easily. So, I think he sits about where he's at. Makes sense. So, moving on to our B level. So, a lot of these champions I thought were very weak at first. Some of them I still do think they're weak, but we'll talk about them. So, starting with Janos. I will admit, I think I probably thought Janos was a little worse. I didn't think Celestial Touch buff would do that much. Sorry, not the Celestial Touch buff. The Celestial Touch in his kit. Is that what it is, right? Just want to make sure I'm right about that. Yeah, Celestial Touch is in his kit now, so your heal just heals for 5% more, which I thought was like completely negligible on a lot of things, but it actually does increase tank healing a decent amount. It helps tank healing a little bit. Damage healing, it does basically nothing, but it's still something because it wasn't in his kit. Now they added it, so like just any buff helps. So considering that, I actually would move him up a little bit. I think he's still below Furia and Ying, but I think he does have like a place in the meta somewhere. I think someone might be able to find a place in the meta for him somewhere. I think he can fit somewhere. I just don't know where. I haven't found it out, but maybe somewhere. Maybe. Moving on to Skye. I actually will admit, I think I might have put Skye a little low. She is kind of messed still. Like, her healing talent isn't that good. I think it's okay. Like, I think it maybe is playable. Not really a top rank. So considering that, I think she's pretty low on the tier list. Actually, you know what? I think I had her at the right spot. I think B is where she fits. She's so easily countered by Illuminate. If two people on the enemy team buy Illuminate, she's just like a dead champion. She dies so fast. She brings nothing to the game at that point. And considering that, I think she's pretty bad. Tyra, I'd say the same thing about her. She's just, except like obviously Illuminate doesn't counter her, but she's no mobility. Doesn't bring much damage. She has a decent amount of damage, but it's not like a ton compared to the rest of the characters in the game. Her nade build is really fun, I'll admit. But every time I play that Tyra nade build, I feel like I just get like dove and I'm dead instantly, even with the DR and the healing. I don't know. I can't get it to work. I don't know what it is. I just feel like I have no mobility, no way to help myself if I get dove. I just don't know what to do on her. I think she's pretty weak as well. So moving on down to my bottom champions. And I do want to say one thing, guys. If your champion is at the bottom, I'm sorry. Okay? I'm very sorry. Like, that's just my opinion, you know? You can still play these champions and make them work. Like, I think every single champion in this game is viable. Like, all the way from SS to D. I think you can play any of these champions in the right situation and make them work. So do not feel bad if I put your champion low. Please. I'm so sorry. Anyways, let's talk about it now. Vivianne. I will admit, I think I might have put Vivianne a little lower than she deserves. I think she's probably just a better Tyra. So I will move Vivianne up a little bit. I still think she's pretty bad. I think she's, you know, better than these champions, but definitely not like a very viable champion. I wouldn't pick her 99% of the time, but you know what? She might fit somewhere. Her shield is pretty decent. It does do a decent amount in a meta, you know, the slow meta where everyone's sitting back and firing. It does get a decent amount of value then. Moving on to Lex and Moji. Real quick, I still think Moji's garbage. I'm sorry, all you Moji mains out there. Again, I'm so sorry, but Moji is still garbage. She's a D. I'm keeping her on D. I'm sorry. Just because I hate playing her, and I still think she's bad. But mostly because I hate playing her. And Lex, I'm going to move up one tier. I think he does have a decent amount of mobility. He's pretty good at counter flanking because you can see through the walls. Not like flanks are a huge part of the meta, but he is good at that. So considering that, I would move him up a tier. I think he's still, you know, pretty weak, but he's okay. He's playable for sure. And let's look back at Imani again. Where would we put Imani now that she's nerfed and on the ground? You know what? I'm gonna move Imani up a tier. I think she's better than I originally rated her. I didn't really know where everything was gonna fall, but I will move her up a tier. I don't think she's C. I think she's probably playable, but I still think she's very weak. I don't think her damage, her fire burst at 2,000 damage is enough. I think at 2,200 maybe it was enough, but at 1,000 it's just definitely not enough. But yeah, that's it for my tier list. Closing it out, I think if you follow this pretty closely in ranked, you'll do very well. I like the curve. It has a pretty nice curve in it. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I think after playing in this meta for like a month now, I definitely know a lot more about it. And I feel a lot more confident with this tier list looking at it. So all that considered, thank you so much for watching. Again, I am so sorry if I put your champion lower than you think it deserves. I really apologize about that. It's just my opinion. You're free to have your opinion as well. That's what makes Paladin such an awesome game, right? Like, we all have our opinions about these champions. And I will say, I think every single champion in this game is viable. I think you can fit every single one of these champions in the meta in some place. Maybe not like, I'm not saying like you could always pick Lex over a Sha, but maybe if, you need to see a flank through a wall or something with his discovery talent, it might be all right. So closing out the video, I hope you enjoyed. Sorry this went a little long. When you're talking about tier list videos and I want to talk about every champion and give them all equal amount of time, it can go a little long. I understand that. But again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next video. Peace.